There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear.
The social and political unrest of 1960s and 70s America opened the door to a whole new breed of animation.
America was growing up, maybe the world was growing up, Vietnam was starting, the peace marches were marching. You weren't going to get away with the same old maybes, you know, or cutie kind of things. I think you had to be very direct or honest, like, you know, something's blowing in the wind.
There's battle lines being drawn.
You had a countercultural movement at the time, a part of which was aware of and devoted to the production of politicized and intentionally socially provocative cartoons.
That was the beginning of a new trend to connect with people older than children in animation. And of course, Ralph Bakshi was a big pioneer in that with Fritz the Cat, which was based on an underground comic by R. Crumb. It was rated X in this country. It had sex, it had language, it had violence that you hadn't seen in cartoons.
I've tasted life to the fullest, and still my soul cries out, yes, cries out in its hungry, tortured, racked quest.
Look at the good side of life. Things aren't all bad. Gee, he's handsome.
You can help me. You must save me. By so doing, you too will be saved.
Well, I'd like to, but what can I do?
Lovely set of eyes there.
It was coarse. Its tracks were coarse. The voice tracks were recorded on the street by non-actors. If I wanted a hippie, I got a hippie. If I wanted a black guy, I got a black guy, you know. Whatever was happening in the streets was in the film. And that compared to Bambi, or compared to Snow White, or Donald Duck, was amazing, and people went crazy. And the kids were tearing the theaters apart.
Open up in there! Oh, hippie bastards!
Good, Ralph, do it again.
When those pigs said, "Open the door, you hippie bastards," I mean, I thought the roof would come in the theater. So it was that contrast to Disney. It was that's me up there. That's every kid could relate to what was happening. There wasn't just an animal anymore. It wasn't a generic animal. It was them in the streets. That was their hippie girlfriends. That was their bathtub. They all had LSD in, you know.
Oh, baby, I feel high. Oh, I'm flying.
In short, Fritz the Cat was like every other white middle-class American at that time who was toying around with the revolution. In other words, they were joining the revolutions to get laid. They were joining the revolutions to have a lot of people listen to them scream, but when things got hot, they left.
That thing. Suddenly it's all very clear. I must tell the people about the revolution. Huh? Revolt! Revolt! Damn you, what the hell you jabbering about now?
I think Ralph was definitely subversive. He was certainly intentionally making different films than what Hollywood and any animator was making at the time.
Look, I done heard enough, man, and I think I'll say so.
Ralph Bakshi's explosive film Coonskin went even further. Scenes like this, depicting black-on-black violence and extreme stereotypes, were attacked by black and white groups, and the film was withdrawn.
For me, Coonskin was the first time I had ever seen anyone with access to Hollywood's resources talk about racial hypocrisy in America in as clear and as unhypocritical a way as this film did.
The trouble with you blacks is you're too dumb to know when you're in big trouble. I don't want you talking to him, Savior. Kill him.
The picture was ultimately and endlessly about how we exploit our black people and how we lied to them. That was ultimately what the picture is about. And that was very offensive to a lot of white groups who exploited black people. It was offensive to the people who sold drugs to the blacks in Harlem. It was offensive to our government. I wanted Coonskin to be the truth about how white people felt about it and how black people felt about each other.
Well, you know, the funny thing is that we've always talked about having black people.
Yes, it's very nice to have.
But I mean, now that you're really
black
here and
people
everything,
in
it's just
club.
incredible, isn't it? I mean, tell her.
Yes, it's incredible.
There's a key scene in Coonskin where America, the country, is anthropomorphized as a tall, blonde, extremely zaftig woman, dressed in red, white, and blue, stars and stripes, sitting on a bench and beckoning to a short little black guy.
Come on, fella.
There's really only one way to interpret that scene, which is exactly the way I think Bakshi meant it, which is it symbolizes the fundamental and consistent betrayal that America has perpetrated against her black population in this country.
Oh, she got to clap.
Since the 1960s, animation has slowly re-established itself as a form of entertainment for grown-ups. But as racy adult themes become more and more popular, so do concerns that illicit subject matter is finding its way into children's cartoons.
You set a kid down to watch a cartoon, you think they're not going to see anything bad because cartoons are funny, cartoons are childlike, animation is childlike, and when you find out they're not, then it's a terrible shock.
One of the most controversial children's cartoons was Ren and Stimpy. Broadcast on Saturday mornings, it brought an entirely new meaning to the phrase morning sickness.
I think what Ren and Stimpy did is it took a classic cartoon approach and updated it for present day. It took all of the cuddly aspects of animation and stuck it in your face and said, it may have been cuddly before, but it's not cuddly anymore.
The first goal I set myself when I was doing Ren and Stimpy was, I'm going to give kids what they want. You just watch kids play by themselves. They like violence, they like gross stuff, you know, they fart. I think that's the funniest thing in the world. So I want to get ratings with this show.
Ren and Stimpy are also preoccupied with farting, vomiting, pissing, shitting, anything that violates and expresses bodily function. Son of Stimpy, for example, features Stimpy's fart child, and this is very challenging in the sense that his fart child is also related to the idea of Christmas and the Son of God.
Something came out of your butt, it made a sound, and it smelled funny.
Yes!
You're an idiot.
When the gutter language comes in, and when the toilet humor comes in, and all of those things that come into television, then indeed those children adopt those same memory. They have the same great memory, and parents sometimes wonder, where in the world did you hear that? You certainly didn't hear it in our home. Well, they did hear it at home, but it was on the television.
That would be cool.
Another series that courted controversy was MTV's Beavis and Butthead. The moronic and often violent antics of its two anti-heroes was seen by some as a corrupting influence on its young audience.
In animation, you can like have people ripping apart each other's guts. Yeah. And, like stabbing each other's heads with their tongues. Animation is cool.
I guess what I was thinking is just, you know, imagining when I was 14, or even at the time I was like 26 or whatever, and just looking at just teenagers in the mall or the grocery store and just going, oh God, it's the end of the world.
We're drawing dead people. Yeah. Dead people are cool.
Maybe I was trying to, like in the back of my mind, just kind of say, hey, has anyone noticed this is what they're like? You know?
And now let's peer into the imaginations of our friends Beavis and Butthead. Oh my.
There was one video where Butthead talked about, you know, what if you put a firecracker in a cat's butt? And then there was a cat that was killed that way, which actually happens every year around 4th of July. It's been happening for, you know, as long as there's been fireworks and cats and teenagers.
My understanding was that there were even many reports after that of young boys either talking about blowing up a cat or literally blowing up a cat. And so we saw that indeed the animation did have a cause and effect value there.
Animation obviously contributes to a sense of unreality as well. A lot of the violence in cartoons is so over the top that we take the view that, you know, even small children aren't going to take it seriously. You know, the image, you know, a real life image of, you know, somebody stabbing somebody has a very big impact on, especially on young children. Because it's so close to home, we can all imagine holding a knife and what that would feel like. But an image of, you know, an animated creature who's probably the wrong colour from real life anyway, dropping a 2,000-ton boulder on somebody's head, it just doesn't have the same impact because it's so divorced from reality.
You don't have to teach kids to be violent. It's in us. We're just cavemen in clothes.
Howdy. Howdy.
To take it out of cartoons is ridiculous, because you're still going to see it in the movies, you're still going to see it on the street. You can't eliminate it. You know, Napoleon never saw any Tom and Jerry cartoons, and he wiped out half of Europe. What was his excuse?
Now, Desmond, you do smoke ganja at home, don't you?
Oh, yeah, man. We smoke that shit all the time.
I think the animators are beginning to not only push the envelope with sexual innuendos and violence, but they're also beginning to push the envelope with the acceptance of the drug culture.
The Magic Roundabout. Children sitting around watching a set of stories that have clearly been influenced by drug use and drug abuse. Yes, Florence, Zebedee, Dougal, they're all out of their trees.
See what I have here? Mushrooms, a great delicacy.
Magic Roundabout, as far as I'm concerned, I know it's said it's as drug associations, hippie associations, but I can assure you from the very word go, when we started, it once again was just a straightforward children's program, very colourful if possible, and could amuse people.
I think you are toying with forces you don't understand, said Dougal. They're magic, said Florence, prophetically.
Magic Roundabout started off in France. Afterwards it came to England, but it was not translated from the French scripts. Eric Thompson did his own voiceover to the picture. He didn't translate them. He just gave his own interpretation at the time. And whether he was influenced by what was going on, I wouldn't be surprised, yes.
If you think I'm picking mushrooms at my time of life, you're off your head.
Of course, a lot of grown-ups got caught up in the Magic Roundabout. And of course, the lead question is, what did they see in the Magic Roundabout? And they saw much more than we ever intended to put there.
This is one of the interesting phenomena, I think, about the cartoon, the animated film in general, is that it seems to provide an open space for people to interpret exactly what they want into it. And therefore, the audience can bring subversion to the animated film, even if there was none intended in the first place.
You may be right, said Florence.